Mumei. It has Thelor. It has, basically a lot of what I feel. Which is, again, just incredible. Incredible, because Tikian-san really, I don't know how he did that, but he captured it really well. And I feel like the MV also captured very well how I have felt. Because, I think a very clear theme of the song in the MV is loneliness. Mumei is alone in a world. There's no people. She's like, where the heck is everybody? And also, you remember how I said when I was younger, I was told this isn't just me thinking this is how people saw me. I was told this. I was just like a shadow in a hoodie. Because I didn't really talk. I didn't really have any presence. But inside I was like, man, I wish I talked more. Man, I wish I wasn't so nervous around people. Man. And I feel like I've had times in my life where, I don't want to say we all have this. Maybe we all don't. But this is probably more common. Or like I've been like in places in my life where I had friends, I was close to family and stuff. I've also had times in my life where like I've been completely by myself. When I didn't want to be by myself. It sucked. I didn't want to be. It's one thing, if you're by yourself and you're like, yeah, I'm chill with this. But I was like, I am by myself and I don't know how to change this. It feels bad. Especially if, this is not really like the MV, especially when you feel like you're around people a lot, but really you are by yourself. Because, sure, you could probably talk to the people around you, but just be like, hey, how's your day? Hi, nice to meet you. Stuff like that, But, oh my gosh, oh my goodness. My goodness. The times during COVID too. But even before COVID, I was alone. I think a lot about those times. But also there are times where even when I lived with family, I was very lonely. Especially, I've talked about this before, I think, a little bit, but I had civilization duties. Fresh out of pre-civilization duties. That place you go before civilization duties. And it didn't work out. And I dropped out really, really soon after because of the social. There were a few factors. But a big one was the social factor. I was kind of freaking out. And I know a lot of people get scared and stuff when they first move away and everything. But no, I was like, honestly, I look back at that and I think to myself, I should have just sucked it up a bit more. I had other stuff going on outside of being overwhelmed with having to be social in a civilization. But unfortunately, I let the thought of, oh my gosh, I do not want to waste money. I don't want to waste money. What if this doesn't work? And what if I'm here for, I was there for very little time. I was like, what if I'm only here for a year? That'd be such a waste of money. I don't want to waste people's money. I don't want to waste people's time. So I was like, okay, I'll do something else. Before it was too much of, a money and time sink. That's why. So sometimes I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I didn't do that. Because maybe things could have gone differently. But the past is the past. It is what it is. But that time afterwards, oh my gosh, that sucked. Because I went back home and I remember I didn't have many friends at home before I left, but none of them were there. Because they also left. They also went off to do their whatever equivalent of civilization duties they had to do. I remember. I was like, shoot, what are you supposed to do? So even though I lived with, at that time, at least I wasn't completely alone because I lived with family still. I had Mother Al. But I just remember the times when Mother Al would not be around, like she'd travel. Oh my gosh, what did I get? Would I get sad? I was literally like, what? There's nowhere for me to be and nothing for me. Like, wow. Is this Midwestern? No. Oh my goodness. I think my lowest point, one of my lowest points of loneliness during that time period was when Mother Al went on a trip and I asked if I could go. But for pretty valid reasons. For valid reasons, I couldn't go. And I just remember, because I was like the first time I asked, and I was like, I see. I see. It sucked. And I think all of us now, or at least most of us, were forced to experience this kind of loneliness because of COVID. There's different degrees of loneliness. Like, I don't know. I've felt lonely when I've lived with family. I don't know. I felt lonely even when I had people online to talk to. But of course, there's different degrees of it. But I feel like most of us will go through a time in our lives where we feel that. But it's like, I don't know. But what's interesting for me, or to me, is something I realized because I was kind of sick of feeling lonely. And it's hard to move on from, I guess. Or it's hard to approach in a positive light, I guess. Because most humans are social creatures. I like my alone time, but when it's kind of like you have no choice but to be alone, that kind of sucks. But I've come to appreciate the aloneness. I read that in a book. Turn your loneliness into aloneness, which I think is hard to do. And I was really trying to do it for a long time, but I feel like now, without even trying, I that's kind of how I feel. But I'm not really alone though. I am, but I'm not. Depends what you consider. If you were to go up to a normal person and be like, yeah, I have no IRL friends, but I have friends online, they'd be like, wow, that's really sad. Most people would think that. If you go to your parents and you're like, yeah, I have online friends, but I don't have anyone to hang out in person, most people will be like, that's really depressing. You should try to make real friends or something. But at least I feel like, nowadays I don't think as many people feel that way. But oh my gosh, when I was younger, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have online friends. I would have been even more lonely. I think there is some truth though to it being good to have people IRL. I don't know. It depends how you are as a person. But this is okay to talk about because it helps us think about the music video a bit. But I don't know. Even now, sometimes now I'll be a little down because I'm like, man, when I go to Japan, I'm not down when I go to Japan, but it just makes me realize, imagine if, I had the whole of girls nearby, how JP and ID, we have each other, but not in person, and in different time zones, stuff like that, right? And unfortunately, I think it is true that there is a big difference between, you know, being online friends and being IRL friends. Like what we get to do together in person and how we spend time. Like you bond in different ways and stuff. I'm not saying it's better. Like I'm not saying one thing is better than the other. I think even some people should work. Some friendships just work better as online friendships. I think can be true. I think it depends. But when you with the other members, when you meet and you realize, oh my gosh, it would be nice. Then I get a little sad. But not too sad. Because we have each other online. We still have each other. Also, can I just say, this is something I've thought about too. With Hololive, it's such an interesting job. Because with a lot of jobs, like you go and I don't know. I feel like Hololive is really special because you form these bonds with the other members and stuff. But it's like, oh my gosh, like Hololive, if you're in Hololive, it probably takes up like 90% of your life. Like whether you want it to or not, it's just on your mind. It's hard to not think about it. I think it's like but then you have that though with your friends. How many jobs do you have like with good friends, you know? Like your good friends are there. And it's like just constant thinking about, okay, what can I, like you think about your own projects, but you're like, okay, like what kind of collabs can we do? Like what project can we do? Like stuff like that. Does that make sense? So I think that's very special. I feel so lucky to have a job like that. Anyways, that kind of represents, I guess, the part, or one, I'm gonna use the word interpretation so many times. One way you can interpret the music video, or the girl, I guess, if she's supposed to represent other members and stuff. But then, of course, I mean, also, I won't tell you how to interpret it, but the song itself, I think, well, sorry, I'm gonna try to go back to that thought I had before. What was that thought I had before? About how, even though the song is about Mumei, okay, this is how we got here, okay? Even though the song is about Mumei, I think a lot of people can put themselves in as Mumei and still relate to it and stuff. That's why I started talking about loneliness, because, like, we've all experienced this kind of thing, right? Or, like, a lot of people experience this kind of thing, right? Right? Like, sure, you're not experiencing being the only person left on Earth and, you know, walking into ghost towns like Mumei and not finding anything or anybody. Like, sure, it's not that bad, but you can still relate and kind of, I don't know, maybe see yourself in little Mumei looking around and stuff. That's where I was trying to go. So I just really like that. I feel like it's very personal to me and it expresses a lot of how I feel, but also I think is very relatable at the same time. It's amazing how good it is for both things. So I feel like to make things relatable, to make content that you're like, this will absolutely relate to a lot of things or a lot of people, you have to leave it pretty broad and pretty vague. And I don't feel like this music video is that broad or vague. Like, when you first watch it, at least if you're watching with the idea this is about Mumei. But if you take a step back and you look through a different lens, then you can see. Sorry. I'm so deep. I'm so deep. You have to consider you may be Mumei. Oh my goodness. No. Yes. Don't worry about it.